Okay, as you can see, I'm here in a DFW and going to discuss a little about how to do visual sweeping as an observer. So when you're in the back seat, it's a little different than being up here, right? Because when you've got control of the stick up front, you've got to fly the plane and do your sweeps, and if you've got other aircraft that you're trying to stay in formation with, you've got to do that too. And you can't just do, wide sweeps back and forth, right? You got to actually zoom in to look the full distance from your plane. So trying to do that and do all those other things, it can get a little bit difficult. There's a lot of distractions. However, when you're in the back seat, there isn't any of that. You just kind of get to sit back here and munch on your in-flight pretzels and adult beverages, which is easy, but it doesn't free you from the responsibility of doing a good job, of course. First thing we want to look at is, of course, instructions. Each plane is going to be different. If you have a plane like a Handley Page or a Breguet or a DH-4, then of course your tail would be something you're going to have to look around and watch for approaching enemies or landmarks passing under the tail, etc. Other thing to take note of course, when you're going to be conducting visual sweeps is your weapon, right? Because your weapon, if it's big and bulkier than a single machine gun, which isn't too bad, that could get in the way too of trying to look around your plane. So what you want to do is, if you can, just position it somewhere out of the way. What I like to do, as long as your pilot trusts you and doesn't freak out, just put it up front over the pilot, because that way, if they're watching up front, it's not really a big deal, and it frees your vision entirely towards the back. Again, if you're in a Handley Page where you might have multiple positions in the plane, you might want to even, if you can, jump in and out of different positions occasionally, from the top down to the ventral position in the rear, just to scan under the plane occasionally. Or actually it'd be easier for the pilot to do it, but it's still something that an observer can do, thanks to the manage crew menu. But anyway, so when we're actually trying to do visual sweeps, the pattern and methodology really is going to kind of depend on how you find it easy to do and what works for you. The main goal here is to not get complacent, not to miss anything. You've got to keep your situational awareness. So if there's a certain method that works, that will prevent you from missing things, then do that. It's common, vertical sweeps up or down, and kind of doing a radial sweep around the plane as you do it. That's one way. Some people kind of prefer horizontal arcs around at different levels of the plane. That works too, but don't forget that you also have to include some sweeps far away. So the method I kind of like to use is sort of a polka dot method. So I'll sweep far and I'll zoom back out. Sweep far, zoom back out. And I'll do that over and over again. And if there are certain sides of the planes or areas of the plane which I think is more likely to have a bandit, like for instance right now we're going over the mud, so this side of the plane would have much more of a chance of a contact than this side of the plane, then I might devote more of my attention to this side of the plane. So by doing this sort of a polka dot method, you can sweep mini quadrants of the plane, and you get the far vision component and the close vision component. Again, that's just how I like to do it. Some people actually like to do the side-to-side or up-down method. Or if you have another one that works, that you find particularly helpful in keeping you focused, then I encourage you to use that. Again, the main goal of this is just to not become complacent and make sure that you're truly doing the best job you can back here. The other thing I want to point out here is that whether you use track IR or a mouse look to observe, there are benefits to each. Neither one is right. If you mouse look, you will be a little bit faster going to the guns, and maybe even it'll work better for you when you have to go to the being a gunner. Sometimes people find it difficult to use track R when trying to sight in on the gun. But then again, if you decide to use track IR for observing, you get the ability to do the nice, looking over the side and under the fuselage and over the side of the fuselage. So, there's benefits either way. One thing you definitely have to be aware of is that target fixation for an observer is just as much of a problem as for a gunner. If you see something, a bandit approaching, you don't really want to stay completely focused on it until you know that you're going to have to deal with it as a threat. Same thing if the pilot's lost and looking for landmarks. Okay, scan for landmarks. Do some of that looking towards the ground. But because your pilot's looking towards the ground, that's the time that you should be focused up, because your pilot's definitely not. So it's really, again, easy to make that mistake of, you're trying to help the pilot, trying to assist him, and in doing that, you're letting down possibly your guard and compromising the safety of the plane and the pilot unintentionally, but it is a side effect that can occur. So that's something definitely to watch as you are an observer. And that about covers the basics. So thanks for watching, and I hope this was an informative presentation.